Welcome to What's the Verdict, a show where I cover my Verdict MMA picks for the upcoming UFC event. And remember, when it comes to Verdict MMA, we're in it for the glory. This coming weekend, we have UFC 306, O'Malley vs. Dvalishvili. Starting off with my first pick on the prelims, I have Raul Rosas Jr. getting a second round knockout. The Chi-Wee-Wee's era is here. I know nothing about his opponent, and I think Raul Rosas Jr. has the ability to get it done on the feet this time. Next up, I also have Edgar Chairez winning by second round knockout. Joshua Van is coming off a wild knockout loss, and if you haven't seen Edgar Chairez fight yet, this dude is an absolute gangster. Moving on, the ever so dangerous Manuel Torres. He's facing elite striker Ignacio Bahamondes, and I see this fight being an absolute barn burner. But I do see Manuel Torres being the physically stronger fighter and having the ability to outmatch Ignacio on the feet and the ground. I got Manuel Torres taking this one by unanimous decision. Next up, I am the biggest fan of Norma Dumont, but I just think Irene Aldana is going to have the ability to do more damage throughout the course of the fight and to ultimately get the TKO in the second or the third round. For my verdict pick, I'm picking the third though. Moving on to the main card, Ronaldo Rodriguez vs. Ode Osbourne. I see this fight being super high paced and super hectic. Ronaldo Rodriguez clearly has more power in his hands on the feet, and it seems that he would also have a superior ground game over Ode. If this fight doesn't go to a decision, Ronaldo Rodriguez is getting a TKO in the second or the third. Next up, we've got Daniel Zellhuber vs. Esteban Ribovic. I know I butchered that name, but whatever, we're gonna go with it. Again, I think this is going to be a very high-paced matchup. Esteban is coming off a ridiculous highlight knockout over Terrence McKinney, and Daniel Zellhuber has put on phenomenal fights within the UFC. I think this fight will go to a decision, and Esteban will come out on top. Now let's get into the good stuff. I was in the building when Diego Lopez made his UFC debut against Movsar Evloev, which obviously made me a fan for life. That fight was insane. But I also trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I love the triangle choke, so T-City's kinda my guy when it comes to MMA. It's hard for me to root against Brian Ortega, but even when they were matched up originally, I had Diego Lopez winning the matchup. I think Diego Lopez is going to be able to keep a higher pace throughout the fight and edge out a submission or a knockout again early in the second round or early in the third. Once again, if you've watched any of the videos on my channel, you know how big of a Valentina Shevchenko fan I am. Regardless of the outcome in the first fight between these two, both of them have been phenomenal fights. I think Valentina is going to make the necessary changes to be able to get a finish or a dominant decision in the fight to get a clear victory. My verdict pick for Valentina vs. Alexa Grasso 3 is Valentina getting a third round TKO. Now, let's move on to the main event of the evening. Sean O'Malley vs. Merab Dvalishvili. The narrative in this fight is that Merab is going to try to use his wrestling, while Suga is obviously going to try to stick and move on the feet and get a win that way. Merab definitely has a questionable chin. He was clipped and almost put out by Henry Cejudo and Marlon Moraes, and we all know Henry Cejudo is not known for his power in his hands. A lot of people think that Suga is going to be able to put Merab out easy, but I don't think it's going to be a clear-cut victory for Suga. I think Merab is going to be able to implement some of his wrestling and dominant ground game within the early rounds. And as we've seen, we know Merab is insanely conditioned. I mean, he shot 49 takedowns against Peter Yan over the course of 25 minutes. That's statistically insane inside the UFC. But also in the fight with Peter Yan, we saw that Suga Sean O'Malley has the conditioning and the cardio to go into the later rounds. I think Suga Sean O'Malley is going to be able to weather the early storm and get a knockout in the third or fourth round. My verdict pick is Suga Sean, third round TKO. And those are my picks, guys. Like I said, it's Verdict MMA. I'm in it for the glory. I'm looking for a lot of finishes, a lot of XP, and you should too. Feel free to go follow me over on Verdict MMA, Daily Tapouts FC. And once again, this has been What's the Verdict? This has been Daily Tapouts FC. Thanks for watching.